The other day, my little girl sent me a TikTok. 13 years old. I'm trying to get her off that thing. She saw a video of a guy saying, "Stop saying everything was 400 years ago." And the point he was making is that Harriet Tubman was alive when Thomas Jefferson died. And Ronald Reagan was alive when Harriet Tubman died. And I said, let me look that up. And Mr. Speaker, I Googled it and found out it was true. Tubman was born in 1820. Jefferson died on July 4th, 1826. I said Tubman was died in 1820 because they didn't know her birth date. That back then that wasn't important. Reagan was born on February 6, 1911, Mr. Speaker. And Harriet Tubman died on December 10th, 1913. All of us are connected. All of this history is connected. And it was amazing to hear how through time all of these famous people, impactful people, were all here on this planet during those very, very different turbulent times. Mr. Speaker, history is a great discipline. I love to study it, to see where we are as a nation compared to where we were is a miracle. I know my ancestors would say it's a miracle to see me even standing in this place. I'm in awe of this place. I pass, when I come in the building in Pocahontas, sometimes some members have, I call it an ode to Patrick Henry. I don't know which member has an ode to Patrick Henry. They have a billboard up of Patrick Henry in the hallway. And I reflect on him and his history. When I come into this Capitol, there's a statue of Henry Clay as I walk into the building. As I go up the stairs, there's a statue of Thomas Jefferson there. And when I come up another level, outside these doors, there's a statue of George Washington. Y'all know what they all had in common other than being founders and revolutionaries and great founders of this, and great men for their time. They were also all slave owners. And they all knew that slavery was wrong. In fact, they all during their time made statements against slavery. But that conflict, as we all have in ourselves sometimes, they couldn't give it up. Patrick Henry, although he said, "Give me liberty or give me death," he also said, "Would anyone believe that I am master of slaves by my own purchase? I am drawn along by the general inconvenience of living without them. I cannot justify it, however culpable my conduct." This was a man who was tortured, who knew it was wrong, yet he persisted. Thomas Jefferson said, "For in a warm climate, no man will labor for himself who can make another labor for him." This is so true that of the proprietors of slaves, a very small proportion indeed are ever seen to labor. And can the liberties of a nation be thought secure when we have removed their only firm basis, a conviction in the minds of the people that these liberties are the gift of God, that they are not to be violated but with his wrath? Then he said, "Indeed, I tremble for my country when I reflect that God is just, that his justice cannot sleep forever." These are men that knew right from wrong. They had other contemporaries, two presidents, John Adams and John Quincy Adams. They never owned slaves. They never enslaved men, women, and children and bred them and sold them. They knew right from wrong. We are all connected to the past, Mr. Speaker. We have the opportunity to continue to improve upon it. This is our gift. We get to reflect upon history. We get to make history for our progeny. Heck, sometimes we get to witness history, and we get to speak to those who are history makers. I don't take this position lightly, and I hope that none of the other members here do either. In fact, I was speaking to Senator Lucas the other day, who is a history maker, the first black woman to become President Pro Tem, heck, the first woman to be President Pro Tem of the Senate. First woman from Portsmouth to be, first woman ever to be elected to the General Assembly from Portsmouth, not just African-American woman. But she was talking about growing up, and when she was about 12 years old, massive resistance happened, and she was out of school for about 4 years. Imagine that. 4 years with no school. 6th grade through whatever that would have been 10th grade, I guess. And during that time, she became, shortly thereafter, she was a teenage mom. And she ended up, I think she said she had 3 kids by the time she was 21 or so. And she was determined not to be a statistic. But that is, and now this woman serves in this chamber now, and to me that is a miracle. It is a miracle about perseverance, about stick-to-itiveness, about grit, and about intelligence. Mr. Speaker, when I look around this room, I see the portraits. Sometimes I walk around and I look at these men on these walls, and I Google them and look them up, and you'd be surprised to know that some were architects of massive resistance, connected to Senator Lucas and her history. This history is still with us daily as we sit in this room. But Mr. Speaker, when I walk by those busts and statues that I come through, and when I look at these portraits, I also see the ghost. Can you see them in the room? They're here with us. They are the spirits of those who were enslaved, who served here, who built this place. I see the ghost who watched, sometimes serving people who were voting, probably for a prayer like we had today, voting to take their rights and liberties, to extinguish their voting rights, to extinguish their existence. Mr. Speaker, someone said that when you plant a tree, it is an act of faith. There's a proverb that says a society becomes great when old men and women plant trees in whose shade they will never sit. I'm so grateful that those who came before me persevered and planted trees for me and for you. And I hope it is our intent to plant trees for our progeny. Finally, I hope all of those who are veterans, I always think, Mr. Speaker, I was a young ensign on a ship in the middle of the Persian Gulf. We were tossing and turning, and I was praying like crazy because that ship was bouncing through the Mediterranean into the Gulf. All the time we would have some tough, rough weather. And I would think about those young men who were standing watch with some binoculars on front, looking for mines, making sure we were safe. And so I'm going to switch up a little bit because I just want to make sure that we always recognize and honor those veterans and honor those folks who sacrifice sometimes when they're not respected the same when they come back. We, African-American community, I always bring this up. We serve at a disproportionate number to our population. We believe in this America. We believe in this dream. We can't, African-American, Africa is not a country, it's a continent. I'm always jealous when I hear my friends say, I'm Italian-American or Irish-American. They're connected to a country they can go back to. But this is the only country I know. So I'm going to always reserve the right to challenge this country to be better. Now, finally, I hope you would join me in praying for the people of Ukraine. I pray for our Commander-in-Chief, Joe Biden, and I pray for all of our troops and service members that I know are standing watch, standing on high alert. The delegate from Fairfax, Delegate Sullivan, talked about first the other day. Lloyd Austin, isn't it amazing right now in 2022, Lloyd Austin is our first black Secretary of Defense. And we're praying for him, the men and the women who serve. And I want to thank you, Mr. Speaker.